Hi, I've made a lot of videos on IG's API but haven't made any based on the platform itself, and I thought I could mention some stuff I've learned along the way. So IG is a UK based brokerage but does do dealings worldwide. They mainly work in three areas, that being share dealing, which is available worldwide, spread betting and CFDs. Now, those are so spread betting and CFDs are a form of leverage trading. Now, a brief explanation of leverage trading is if I have £100 and share X costs £1 a share, I could trade 150 shares under leverage trading. I can trade with more money than I actually have, meaning profits and losses are amplified. If you do happen to run out of the minimum required to hold in your account, as in the minimum required to hold in terms of money in your account, your positions will be liquidated. And what that means is your positions will be exited forcefully without any of your say so, and that usually happens at a loss. So that's kind of what leverage trading is in a nutshell. Now, the two main differences between CFDs and spread betting is in the UK, spread betting is classed as a type of betting, which is exempt from tax. On the other hand, CFDs is not classed as that, so it's taxed. Okay, now you can see we've signed in. Now looking at the platform, you can see it's divided into two parts. The real dealing at the top and demo accounts down below. It's just worth bearing in mind the account IDs below each heading. It's useful to know that when you're using the API. So IG's API only works with this leveraged platform. I've tried looking for an API for its shared dealing accounts, but I couldn't find anything. So now if we open an account, the demo account, that being here, you can see we have this workspace, and this is mainly where you'll see and make your trades. You can see the top bar, we have our workspaces, and we can add a new one like so. So if you look at the left hand side bar, you can see the instruments we have. So we have indices, FX, cryptos, shares, commodities, bonds, ETFs, and options. Now I don't know options that well, so I'm not going to talk about that much. A thing to note is with shares, the API or the IG API doesn't allow you to get this data in real time. After speaking to IG staff, they said that they have a special agreement with the exchanges that doesn't allow them to display this data in real time via the API. But this data here, in terms of the web platform, is in real time, so you can trust that. So making a trade. So let's say, for example, we go into US Tech 100. Now we can either add this to the our workspace by clicking that button here, or we can just keep this as is and make trades that way. You can make a long and short position by clicking the deal button. After you've selected one of these buttons, fill that the size you want, if you want to stop or if you want to limit, and then you just place a deal that way. Now you have your margin requirements here. So this basically means the amount of money you must have to create this position, or the amount of money you need to have in your account for this position to exist. If your money in your account goes below this amount, then you'll be liquidated, as in the position will be forced to close. Now, the way IG does that, it already reduces it from this token value here. So if you look at the value there and you see if I make the deal, you can see that the funds available are reduced, so you will always know if you're about to go into zero, so it's quite convenient in that way to be placed there. You can see profit and losses here, the margin. As the price either goes down or up, the margin will change, so it's dynamic in that way. Now another thing to take into account here are orders. This is basically if you want to make an order so that if the price ever reaches a limit that you've specified, then at that point I won't need to make a sell or a buy position at that value. Now, one thing I did learn the hard way is these are not normal orders. So if you are used to share dealing, like let's say the IG share dealing page, this is not the same. In share dealing, you have something called good till cancel and limit orders. So good till counts as a variation of a limit order. Now I assume this would be the same for spread betting, but it's not. These are entry orders, not limit orders. So what that means is if there's slippage, so let's say this in particular, the market opens up somewhere around about here and you've put in an order in between, overnight what that will do is it will push the order, so move the order's price to open at where the new value opened. So let's say you're doing a short at this value here and the market opens here, and you know that the market will, as soon as it opens, it will rebound up, and you've made the assumption that you're going to short here. If the market opens there and your short's here, the short will be moved to that opening price value when the market opens. So it will physically move your order to a value at a disadvantage. And it works the same way in the other way as well. So if you're making a long or a buy, it will move your order in a disadvantaged position. So try not to keep these orders open overnight. Make sure they only exist during the day, and even then during the day is not exactly safe. After speaking to IG staff, the recommendations they gave were don't make orders and avoid instruments that have slippage, which is not ideal, but yeah, that's the way things are. Right, in the final section you have alerts. So this essentially makes you can set a price where you want an alert to set up. So let's say there. So when that price reaches that price, they'll alert me somehow. I'm not too sure, I haven't dealt with it much because I thought it was kind of useless. But yeah, maybe they send an email. I haven't really looked into it too much. You have the info page, so this basically tells you the minimum size to deal, the margin factors, the minimum stops, etc, etc. And it tells you how they work out the margin requirement for different stops. So another thing to bear in mind, because there's quite a lot to this. You can have normal stops. So if we let's go to another instrument. Let's go FTSE 100. So if we have a sell and we want to do a normal stop, we can do that, and we can say okay here. So we're doing a short position here. We're saying if it gets to 12 points below what we enter in, then we'll exit out as a profit. Otherwise we can exit out as a loss to stop our losses at that point. Now that's a normal stop loss. A guaranteed stop loss is something different. They have a minimum that you have to be. So it says 10 units away. So if we, I mean that pretty much works. But if you go anywhere in there, it automatically rejects your change in your guaranteed stop. So what guaranteed stop does is if there's slippage, like I spoke about earlier, it will immediately exit you out at that point. So let's say for example we're doing an overnight trade, or we've made an overnight order and we use a guaranteed, it's best to use a guaranteed stop, a short, and when the price comes and hits that, we'll enter into our short. But like I said before, if the order then moves because IG feels like it needs to do it, then when the price does bound back up, it will hit the guaranteed stop, so we can mitigate our losses that way. Otherwise, if you do a normal stop, it doesn't guarantee that, but it does have a smaller band of margin that you can exit out of. But a guaranteed stop is basically the one you want to use, but it is more expensive. So it's difficult to know when to use and at what point, but ideally you want to use this stop. Okay, so that is the dealing side. But after you've made a deal or so ever, let's say we make an order just for the sake of it. Okay, so we've made an order as well. You can see here we have positions, so this is the position we're currently in. You can see they correlate to each other, and then you can see this is the order we've got. that I've just made. Good to cancel. Um, Yep, so limits basically are when you want to exit out. So if your position goes in the way or your or if it goes in the way that you want it to go, then when to exit out. So a couple of units, 10 units above what we enter in. Yeah, so 10 units above what we enter in, or 10 units below what we enter in is when we exit. 10 units above what we entered in is our guaranteed stop. And the same kind of goes for position as well, but because we haven't specified anything here, it's blank. But you can add something like, let's say 10. Does that work? Does that work? Yeah, it does work. Okay, so you can do that. Because we're going long, it does it. It doesn't do it the way orders do it, because orders are like values above. Positions are more like it has to be value. It has to be the 14,000 so and so after. It has to be more exact. Yeah. Okay, so you can see that you can see history here. So let's say if we close a position, obviously you can use this to close it. You can specify the amount you want to close by. So let's say I want to do 0.1. You can close by that. If you want to do something smaller, I don't know if you can do that. Can you do that? Okay, yeah, you can. So I can do, yeah, so I can do 0.01. Yeah, so if we go to our history, you can see it shows how much it shows what we've done and positions we exited out of. Here you can delete your orders, like so. Deleted, boom, position, boom, closed. What I wanted to show you is the data graph. So yeah, you can scroll across, you can do your thing, you can add different graphs here. So you can say, show me the ask. Different features, different schedules, so you can show me the weekly price. I can do tick by tick, so it tells you what the value is. You can do every minute. You can do every 5 minutes. Yeah, so you can mess around with it. It's just really kind of play with what you see. One thing I thought was quite important, well not important, but was interesting to see is how to enter and how to exit. So let's say for example we go in with a sell of 1 and we place a deal of that amount. Okay, cool. So we're in the position of a short by -1 unit. So let's say we want to do a buy then, but we want to do a forced exit. So what this will do is it will reduce our position. Oops. What it should do is reduce our position. So the resulting position will be 0.5. See? Boom. Okay, so another thing we can do is sort of force open. So if we say we want to make a buy, yeah, if we say we want to make a buy, what the resulting position will be is 0.5 in the long direction and 1.5 in the short direction. So you can see we have two positions here. So what this has kind of done is froze us in a permanent loss or a permanent profit. So for example, if the price happens to go in between, like that, can you see they're both in profit? You can sometimes have that, but it's an odd strategy to have. But what you can do is you can sometimes play the long game with it. So if you know an instrument's going to fluctuate over a certain level, then you can say when the price goes lower, partially exit out from your short order or your short position, and then when the price goes back above the line, you can partially exit out your long position. It's kind of a safe way of making a trade, but it does mean you're in it for the long run. And obviously if you're doing it overnight, then you have to pay overnight fees for margin. Okay, so another thing to bear in mind is what you're actually trading. So this here, by standard, if we click on this and then go 4100, it specifies this. So this is what you call a daily funded bet. So the bet expires at the end of the day, and if you make a position here and you want to hold it overnight to the next day and so on and so forth, you have to pay interest on that daily interest. Otherwise, if you do something called a future, which is that, the bet will expire in December, and you can hold that through several days until it expires, obviously, and keep your position going without interest. But the issue here is that these spreads are much bigger than what they would be here. So you can see here spreads 1, future spreads 4, between the bid and the ask or the offer. Okay, so continuing on from the left hand side, you can see watch list, self-explanatory, positions we spoke about before, signals. Now, these are signals that IG claims would be useful when trading or what to do. Now you can see here it pretty much says this is not constituted investment advice and blah 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 blah. Obviously they are brokerage. I wouldn't trust them to give me signals on when to buy and sell. They make money every time I make a trade because they work their fees into, or their commission and whatnot, in the spread of every trade. So and you got news and analysis here. Again, they're a brokerage. I don't see how this would be useful for me because I can't trust them in the first place, because who knows what kind of what their agenda is. So, but one thing I would say is useful is the economic calendar. Now this is quite useful stuff. It tells you about companies, company reports and stuff like that, earning reports, and you can, when they do come out, obviously have a read of them. Just add it into your analysis. One final thing on this terminal to add, a kind of a neat thing here is to, let's say on the demo account and you want to manage your funds. Let's say you've made it down to 0 or something. If you want to change that, you can just do, and then set your funds here. Okay, and obviously you want to find your settings page, because a lot of the stuff I've been doing was looking at IG's API, and for this is the demo page. Obviously you want to look at your API keys. So you'd go into your IG dashboard, you then click on settings and then do trading settings, trade settings, go into API keys and so on. So that was as much as I wanted to say about IG's trading platform. My personal experience is it's difficult to make profitable intraday trades. Ideally, you would want to make trades that span over 3 months for them to be profitable. So I personally work with futures rather than daily funded bets, mostly because of the daily fee they incur. Yeah, so that's IG trading in a nutshell. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And thanks for watching.